Let's talk about what we have. You know what we have? We have a majority in the House of Representatives that is itsy bitsy teeny tiny. We had a 4-seat majority in the House of Representatives. That's what we had. And then, in the wake of all this Democrat corruption out there, we're looking at this corruption and that corruption. We're looking at this crime and that crime, this lie and that lie. The Republican Party came together with the Democrat Party and decided the real enemy of the people, the man who must be removed from Congress, is George Santos. So our majority went from 4 to 3. And wait, there's more. Now we find out a Mr. Bill Johnson, Republican you never heard of, he's in the House. Mr. Bill Johnson announced he's retiring. So our 4-seat majority went to a 3-seat majority, and now it's a teeny tiny 2-seat majority. And that is really, really important. You know why that little majority is important? Because I remember, like it was yesterday, you can say I have a long memory, but I remember the midterms. Do you remember the midterms? Here we are, December 4th, 2023, but the midterms were just a couple years ago. You remember those? Actually, it was 2022. My gosh, it was a year ago. And what happened during the midterms? Do you remember the midterm campaigns? I do. I watched them all over the country. Whenever I was traveling, I'd sit back in the hotel at night, turn on the TV, and I'm looking at all these television ads. I remember opening up my email. I'm getting emails from the Republican Party. And what are they telling me they're going to do? Time and time and time and time again. We will impeach Joe Biden. We will impeach Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a criminal. Vote for me. John Jerkwater. And I promise you, as a Republican, I'm going to impeach Joe Biden. Just get me into office. I'm going to impeach Joe Biden. So, John Jerkwater and the GOP, they are giving back the House. Not a huge majority, but they are giving back the House, promising to impeach Joe Biden. And one of the first major things they've done in a year is they removed one of the Republicans, making the majority so slim that they now probably can't impeach Joe Biden.
The members have heard from their constituents back home. They have confidence in the credibility of our investigation and the mountains of evidence that we've accumulated. So I'm confident we're going to have the votes to move forward with this impeachment inquiry.
And you've got to have a near majority. The majority is so slim, even less now with George Santos being expelled this week, right?
Yeah, it's tough. I think we can lose 1 or 2 members.
It's tough. Don't buy any false confidence there. That was Republicans beginning to do what they call in military. That was Republicans prepping the ground. What does that mean, prepping the ground? Well, they're getting ready for a fight that's about to come. They're getting ready to fail to impeach Joe Biden. And right now, they're prepping the ground. They're prepping you. They want you to be ready when they come forward here soon and say, sorry, we don't have the votes. We tried and we do not have the votes. Hey, sorry about that. We just didn't have the votes. So just to make sure we're all clear on this, the Republicans, they volunteered to drive us where we want to go. And then they drained the gasoline out of their car they were going to use to drive us where they wanted to go. And then as we get in the car and we say, hey, drive me where I want to go, they look back and say, oh, man, I was going to, but we're out of gas. That is the most GOP thing in the history of GOP things. What an embarrassing party. What a bunch of useless eunuchs at best. Wrap your mind around this. At best, we are led by eunuchs. At worst, we're led by people who are actually working with Democrats, doing the whole controlled opposition thing. No, we will fight for you. We'll impeach Joe Biden. And then always coming up with a reason. Oh, gosh, I don't know. Dog ate my homework. I ran out of gas. Always coming up with a reason why they can't. My goodness, If you want to find someone who will speak out the most loudly about Democrat corruption, you have to find the guy who's a vegetable.
What's your reaction to the expulsion?
Well, it's like I'm not surprised, but to me, I think the more important picture is that we have a colleague in the Senate that actually did much more sinister and serious kinds of things. Senator Menendez, he needs to go. And if you are going to expel Santos, how can you allow to somebody like Menendez to remain in the Senate? And Santos's kind of lies were almost funny, and he landed on the moon and that kind of stuff. Whereas I think Menendez is really a senator for Egypt, not New Jersey. So I really think he needs to go.
Who was that? Democrat Senator John Fetterman speaks more clearly and more boldly against the other side than really any Republican I can currently think of, any of them. And back to what we were just talking about how many of these guys are actually controlled opposition, actually working for the other side. Every now and then, you get a Democrat who will kind of pop up and say what he's not allowed to say. He'll be honest about conversations he has with Republicans behind closed doors, like Joe Biden did here.
There are 7 Republicans still in the United States Senate who come up to me since I've been president and say, Joe, I agree with you, but if I vote with you at all, I'm going to be primary to lose my election.
That's how they talk. I've heard this story many, many, many times, not just from old fool Joe Biden. So don't sit there and say, well, Joe Biden lies. Oh, he does lie all the time, but I've heard this many times. You see, to your face, they tell you, I love America, and we're going to impeach Joe Biden. And the second that door closes in the Senate cloakroom, they pour themselves a glass of bourbon and they discuss how stupid you are, how ridiculous you are. You freedom-loving Americans probably even own guns. That's the real Washington, D.C. All that may have made you uncomfortable, but I am right.